Hello and welcome to Retail Week's personalisation discussion. I'm Grace Bowden, technology reporter for Retail Week, and I'm joined by Mike Harris, European GM for Monetate, and Gemma Goldfinger, our features editor. We're going to be talking about all things personalisation related today, what retailers are doing well, what they could do better, and what perhaps the next big bet is in personalisation. So to kick off, why don't we talk about where retailers should start? If they're looking to move into the personalisation space, where should they begin? Is there a quick win, and if so, what is it?
Sure. So I think a lot of retailers have different definitions of what personalization is. Some of them think it's that holy grail one-to-one personalization where you're delivering a true individual experience across channels in the moment. And that is ultimately where everybody needs to get to. But the reality is today, nobody's there. Yeah. So the real quick wins are just understanding segmentation and being able to deliver a different experience based on those large segments that we see coming to the website. A great example is a returning customer versus somebody that a retailer's never seen before. You don't really want to be serving the same message to those two groups. So just thinking about how you would change the content, how you would change the messaging on the website to better cater to those two groups and deliver a better experience.
You say that there's not a retailer around who's got that perfect seamless customer journey in terms of personalization just yet. Everyone's on a different phase of the journey, but no one's arrived at the end destination. Yeah. If we could look into the crystal ball and say what that end destination would look like, what is a really fantastic personalized customer journey for a shopper? Sure.
Well, I think it's somebody who receives a personalized offer, maybe through email, which is I think a common channel that's used today. That customer would then click on the email, go to the website, and have a personalized landing experience. And not just landing page, but landing experience, as in it goes beyond that first page they arrive at, where they're getting relevant content, relevant offers that are factoring in previous browsing behavior, previous purchase behavior, CRM data, anything that we know about that customer should be factored into that experience.
And should some retailers make it very obvious that it's personalised? You get a hi Gemma, hi Grace. What's your feeling on that? Should they know that it's really being tailored for them, or should it just be something that's more implicit?
Yeah, most personalization today is implicit. There are actually very much examples of welcoming people by name. I mean, Amazon does it today and have been doing it for years. Hasn't seemed to have impacted their growth or adoption. So, I think it can be done. I think it's all about being highly relevant and executing that personalization in a way that's not creepy. So the information that retailers need to use, information like gender, browsing information, general location, I think those are all fine. But once you get into some more personal bits of information, it can cross that line.
So it's presentation rather than the level of information.
Presentation falls under that execution of doing it right, making it relevant, but not too personal. That would creep the customer.
Sure. So it seems like there's been a lot of talk about how online retailers can personalize their experience. You're talking about landing pages, email, CRM, that sort of thing. But for a retailer with a bricks and mortar estate, or perhaps a retailer who doesn't even have an online presence, like Primark, for example, off the top of my head, what can someone with a primary focus on bricks and mortar do to personalize the in-store experience?
Well, I'll start off by saying that personalization is very nascent in general. So even those that are doing personalization online are at a very basic level today. Sure. A long way from that sort of holy grail one-to-one personalization that we talked about earlier. So there's a lot that needs to happen there, I think, before it can really be moved to other channels. But for those that are in-store focused, we've seen a lot of talk around beacons and how those can be used to personalize, primarily through offers and recommendations. So being able to serve notifications around very specific products that we know that individual might be more interested in, to hopefully drive a purchase in store. There's other examples where we've seen where store assistants will use tablets and have the customer log in, and then they'll be able to get a more personalized experience because we're logging in and using that customer's previous purchase information and data that we know that the retailer knows about them. So those are the two main executions today, but there's been a lot of pilots that have happened over the last couple of years from big brands in the UK. We're not seeing a lot in terms of adoption yet.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think these pilots have stayed pilots?
Have been pilots?
Yeah.
Well, I think the brands want to understand if it's gonna have a big impact on the business.
Yeah.
My guess is they've evaluated it, and whilst there is some benefit, maybe it hasn't delivered the commercial return that they expect, and therefore, the gains versus the investment, at least today, doesn't quite stack up.
I was speaking to a retailer who had one of those that had done a pilot that remained a pilot, and they said they had a real, the real issue was that customers didn't have their Bluetooth turned on. With kind of the new iPhone not having a jack for speakers, and perhaps requiring customers to have Bluetooth on to listen to Bluetooth headphones, could that kind of really jumpstart the use of beacons in store?
It certainly won't hurt.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it has to deliver a benefit for the customer, and has to deliver a commercial benefit for the retailer. And I think the evaluations that have been done over the last couple of years are to really evaluate those two things. And clearly there's been some data that's shown that perhaps it hasn't quite delivered on its promise yet. But that certainly doesn't mean it's going away.
Watch the space.
Watch this space.
Watch the space, exactly.
Speaking of watch this space, nice little segue. Where do we think personalisation is moving next? What's the next big bet going to be?
So personalisation today is very manual, as in those that are doing personalisation. And I mentioned before, it's very much in the early stages. They're getting understanding of that segmentation, and they're creating scenarios that are kind of rule-based scenarios of personalizing under this condition or that condition, which is a great approach, certainly for getting started. As retailers move to really adopt this in a multi-channel capacity, it's just not physically possible to be able to do that in a rules-based approach. You've got to automate it. And so the next big trend, without a shadow of a doubt, is using a model-driven approach, automation, and some predictive capabilities as well, and allowing the retailers to really scale that personalization far beyond where it is today.
Right.
Otherwise, you would potentially need a very large team to sort of set up and manage those rules.
Fine.
Where it's at today, no problem at all, and that approach will serve retailers for many months, many months to come. But looking much further ahead, predictive
It's
is
not a permanent solution.
Yeah.
Right.
It's got to be scalable.
Sure.
Yeah. So automation.
Many big supercomputers coming up in the future in that case?
No, it's just, companies like Monetate and others in our space are really building in this predictive capability, which uses algorithms and model-driven decisioning as opposed to marketer rules to decide what gets served under what conditions. And that machine learning and automation will drive the scale.
Wow.
So that's where it's going.
Big.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, I think we should probably wrap up. Thanks very much for your thoughts, guys. That was really helpful. We published a personalisation feature recently, a whole magazine, in fact, not just a feature, loads of them. Here's the mag. We also have all of those features are up and online. They're really interesting. So yeah, do have a look. And yeah, great. Thanks very much, guys. We'll speak to you soon.